For today's video, we're gonna go back to the Rankin and Bass realm and talk about the first Easter rabbit. So, alright, let's go. Alright, so we start off in this fancy schmancy house at Christmas time, where this young girl named Glinda received a stuffed bun as a Christmas gift. She names him Stuffy because she is really creative, but man, she really loves this stuffed little rabbit. It becomes her favorite toy. But Glinda came down with a bad case of the scarlet fever, which is horrible. And the doctor advises Glinda's mother to burn everything that Glinda has been in close contact with, you know? Stop the spread, fire cleanses and all that, right? Unfortunately, the burn pile would include Stuffy, which is not good at all. So Glinda's mom puts all the burnable items into a pile and decides to set it all ablaze the next day. And here we learn that Stuffy is actually conscious. He just lives as an immobile stuffed rabbit, which is kind of terrifying. But he realizes the end is nigh, and he sheds a tear for himself, which actually summons Calliope. She's some kind of fairy godmother kind of creature who looks over all these playthings, and she has big plans for Stuffy. First, she turns him into a real rabbit, and she informs him that he must become the first Easter bunny and perform all these Easter bunny tasks on Easter, which is like 2 weeks away. And all of this information like really perplexes Stuffy, man, because he's got no idea what's going on with this Easter thing. But, you know, he's pretty cool with not being set on fire, you know, so he totally agrees. So Calliope informs Stuffy that he has to go to Easter Valley. And, most importantly, to look out for that villainous villain, Zero. And realistically at this point, as if Stuffy knows what's going on right now, man, because, like, neither do I.
Anywho,
Stuffy splits and he runs into 3 real rabbits named Spats, Whiskers, and Flops, and they agree to go on an unexpected journey to Easter Valley, which happens to be in the North Pole, if you can believe it. It's a town that is a pocket of springtime warmth and weather in the frozen Arctic. So the bunny foursome get to Easter Valley, they run into Santa Claus, who's been hanging out in the valley, you know, taking a load off, hanging out in the good weather, and kind of helping Stuffy get, you know, prepared for Easter, which is just around the corner. But the villainous winter wizard Zero and his snowball companion Bruce have other plans for Easter. They want to turn Easter Valley into Siberia, basically. And eventually, they do. They infiltrate Easter Valley and they steal the golden Easter lily, which apparently was the power source for this springtime weather. And now with that safeguard out of the way, boom! Winter hit Easter Valley hard. Spring is gone, right? The houses are all covered under an avalanche of snow, man. So like, my God, Easter is doomed. But Bruce is really starting to feel bad, and his guilt compels him to seek out the help of Santa Claus and explain the whole ordeal, you know. So Santa and his reindeer fly to Easter Valley, they get their rabbits and their eggs and all their other Easter things out of the valley, and they fly to Glinda's hometown to have an Easter parade, which Stuffy himself has organized. So the doctor that was looking over Glinda, Jonathan, he gets Glinda and her mom some new Easter clothes, you know, so they can go to the parade, and boom! Off to the festivities they go, where Glinda and Stuffy are reunited, and she's not even fazed that her toy is alive, which would probably freak some people out, but not Glinda. Nonetheless, man, this parade is a huge success, right? Everybody shows up to it. It's a total awesome party. Back at the North Pole, man, Zero is completely furious at Bruce. How could Bruce allow this parade to happen, even though stopping Easter wasn't part of Zero's objectives, you know, but still, how could he do that? Santa's not really happy at Zero though, and Santa threatens to move his toy-making operations to the South Pole if Zero doesn't return the golden Easter lily to the valley and bring back the spring weather. Zero doesn't want to be left alone, so he quickly agrees, and Easter Valley is saved. And Easter is saved too, right? The rabbits now have a whole year to plan a worldwide Easter party instead of just one town, man, so like things are looking good. So yeah, and with that is the end of this fantastic tale. So yeah, hey, that was quite the Easter story. Like it was pretty good, right? Like it's pretty charming, it's pretty cute. For me personally, this one was not my favorite one out of the Rankin and Bass Easter specials. I'm not saying it's bad or anything, you know, but I think the other ones had a bit more je ne sais quoi to it, you know? Like in The Easter Bunny is Coming to Town, you've had a lot of fun and excitement learning how all these Easter traditions came to be, right? Like with why they're painting the eggs, why they're hiding the eggs, why they're dressing up in fancy new clothes with these fancy pastel colors and stuff like that. It's all kind of neat how it all kind of came to be. Whereas in this special, you didn't have any of that, right? That fairy godmother, what's her name, Calliope, showed up out of the blue, you know, gave Stuffy a list of things to do and said, off you go, do that Easter thing, start it up now. Which is kind of a funny way to have an Easter Bunny origin story. It's kind of like just a paint by numbers kind of a deal for Stuffy, right? But, you know, like all the new characters were pretty cool, man. Like those 3 mischievous bunnies, you know, like Whiskers, Spats, and Flops, right? They're all actually pretty funny and pretty charming. And like Flops, man, he's probably the best character out of this whole special, in my opinion. And it's really awesome to see Santa Claus outside of his Christmas element, you know, just kind of chilling and hanging out and having good times with some of his other buddies. Like if I was Santa Claus, man, I would get a timeshare condo in Easter Valley, man, because like that's like pretty awesome weather to have in the North Pole. Like you might as well make that little vacation kind of a house, right? And the villain of the story, Zero, like he's a pretty decent character. His companion Bruce is, you know, really interesting design. I really think it's cool having just like a snowball with a face. But it's kind of funny how Zero is painted earlier on as the big bad villain, right? Like Calliope tells Stuffy, stay away from him, watch out for him, you know, don't go anywhere near him. He's that bad of a person. But realistically, man, Zero's not a bad guy. He's the antagonist by default, I guess. He's not going after Easter Valley and trying to turn it into winter out of spite or out of malice. He's doing it because it's his job. That's his role in the Arctic, to keep the entire Arctic full of snow and ice and cold, right? Then he sees this pocket of spring in his, you know, winter wonderland, and he's like, what the hell? That's not supposed to be there. According to my job description, we can't have that. So he tries to change it. Like Zero was talking about all the times he went to Santa Claus's house, man, to hang out with them, to have dinner with them, to have an impromptu hangout session, you know, with Mrs. Claus, the reindeer, and all that stuff, right? Like he's friends with them all. Santa Claus would not be friends with a bad guy. So as fun and as cute as this special was, right? Like the stakes in other Rankin and Bass, you know, specials for whatever season were usually pretty high, you know, in relative to what they do. But like in this one, it's like there's really not that many stakes, and it was just a misunderstanding of why things went awry with Zero. One little thing I did kind of notice, you know, like you probably wouldn't have noticed this as a kid when you were watching it originally, but like, you know, Glinda's parents, you just seen her mom, right? Like her dad wasn't around, you know, which is kind of sad, right? But then at the end, you know, the doctor, Jonathan, he was starting to put the moves on, you know, Glinda's mom, so like there was kind of a happy ending there. But like what happened to her dad, right? It's like there's another story to be told here, you know? So yeah, man, you know, that's, you know, it is what it is. You know, I just kind of picked apart a couple of things there because that's what I do for funsies and all that kind of stuff. But the special is still pretty fun, it's pretty charming, and if you haven't seen it yet, you know, check it out for sure, man, because, you know, it's still très bien. There are more things to talk about, though. Alright, so let's go back to the very beginning, you know, to kind of see how this thing came to be. So, much like most of the Rankin and Bass holiday specials, the special was based on either a song or a book, right? And this one is no different. This featured special is based on the children's book called The Velveteen Rabbit by Marjorie Williams, which was published in 1922. And the first half of that story is basically the same as our featured special. It's a story about a young girl getting a stuffed rabbit as a Christmas gift. that young girl getting scarlet fever and the doctor suggesting all of the things that she was in close contact with get on fire because, to not spread the scarlet fever, which was kind of a rare thing with scarlet fever, but nonetheless, that happened. And of course, the toy rabbit being spared of the bonfire and, taken off to the forest and becoming a real rabbit and all that kind of stuff and coming back. Our featured special differs from that original book when it adds in the Easter elements, right? Making the rabbit being the Easter bunny and going off to start the whole Easter thing. Not from the book, but still, the basis of the story is the same. The fantastic thing about this special as well is it's the return of Burl Ives as the narrator. If for some odd reason you don't know who Burl Ives is, in the Rankin and Bass realm, he portrayed Sam the Snowman, who was the narrator for the classic Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer special. So to see him return as GB, it's a thing of beauty. But let's get to some meat and potatoes here, right? How does this Easter special fit into the other Rankin Bass Easter specials? Like we know for the Rankin Bass Christmas specials, they all fit together pretty good, for the most part. But these Easter ones are a different breed. So let's take a look. So, we have 3 Rankin Bass Easter specials. First, there was Here Comes Peter Rabbit, which came out in 1971, and I guess eventually we did get a sequel movie to that one in 2005. But that one's not so much the focal point. The second Easter special was this one, The First Easter Rabbit, happening in 1976. And then finally we had The Easter Bunny is Coming to Town in 1977. So if we take a look at the technology and the clothing and all that kind of stuff from the 3 Easter specials, it looks like The Easter Bunny is Coming to Town takes place in or around the late 1910s. Like, you still had a monarchy presence at that time. Those spiked helmets the soldiers wear, were still used in that time period as well. The clothing styles as well, it all kind of fits that era. Here Comes Peter Cottontail takes place in or about, let's say, the 1920s. Again, with the clothing, the technology that we see on screen, it does check out. And I would say that the first Easter Rabbit would take place around the mid-1800s. Based on that incredibly comfortable clothing that they're wearing in that special. So with the Easter Bunnies Coming to Town and the first Easter Rabbit, that is 2 different origin stories happening at different time periods, which is kind of odd. And Here Comes Peter Cottontail is continuing Easter traditions, so it would have to continue the story of one of those other specials. So, which one could it be? Let's break it down a little further. The first Easter Rabbit takes place in Easter Valley, and Here Comes Peter Cottontail takes place in April Valley. And both of those places have a town in the valley run by rabbits. So it could be one in the same place, just a name change to the valley, although Easter Valley has more pronounced crater walls to it and April Valley looks to be out in the open, but those could just be different design looks for the same place, from different artists. That happens quite a bit in Rankin and Bass specials. And whereas in The Easter Bunny is Coming to Town, the Easter traditions are run by the kids in Kidville, or at least set up by them. But that special does have S.D. Kluger, and he is an established character, so you really can't dismiss that special. And for the specifics of the origins with the Easter Bunny, Sonny creates the Easter Bunny fun and traditions out of necessity, whereas in Easter Rabbit, Stuffy is either told how to do Easter, or he just brainstorms off screen with the other 3 rabbits. So for it to all work out, I do have a theory. It's a little bit of a stretch, but for me, I think it works. So, the first Easter Rabbit started everything off, but that was in North America. The Easter Bunny is Coming to Town started everything off as well, but that was more in Europe. So you got the North American Easter stuff, you have the European Easter stuff, and then they would have come together as one unified Easter unit in Here Comes Peter Cottontail, and what you see in that special is the continuation of the stories, but as a unified front. Hey, how does that sound? It makes sense to me. Nick, not everything in the Rankin Bass specials really fit perfectly with, storytelling. Some things are muddled a bit, so it kind of fits into that kind of a mind space. But yeah, that's the way I see it, and that's what I'm sticking with. I'm not sure what you guys think on that, but Yeah, let me know. But I guess, that's pretty much all I got for this one. So, yeah, and with this, that, those, and the other things, I guess, that's that! Right on, and there you go. So, thanks for watching the video. I hope you liked it as much as I did making it. Also, feel free to check out the source material that I featured in this video. And if you want to leave a comment on anything you may have liked or things I might have missed in this, feel free to do so. Or anything else, just to say hi. That's cool too. And other than that, have a great day. Thanks.